The American Civil War was not just a conflict fought with muskets and bayonets. It was a test of endurance, a struggle for survival on and off the battlefield. Every soldier faced the same daily challenge: finding something edible to eat. The war raged for 4 brutal years, and throughout that time, Union and Confederate troops had to make do with whatever rations they were given, or whatever they could forage, trade, or steal. The meals they ate weren't meant to be delicious. They were meant to keep men marching, fighting, and surviving. Today, we take a step back in time and uncover the food that fueled Civil War soldiers, how they prepared their meals, and the tricks they used to make their rations remotely edible. Hardtack was the foundation of their diet, a staple so infamous that it's still remembered in military history. Hardtack, often referred to as tooth dullers or sheet iron crackers, was a simple, unassuming biscuit made of flour and water, baked until it was practically indestructible. It was produced in mass quantities by large government bakeries, stored for months, sometimes years, before reaching troops in the field. It was so tough that soldiers joked it could stop a bullet. Some even claimed that the hardtack they received had been leftover from the War of 1812, recycled for Civil War use. But jokes aside, it was essential. Hardtack had one advantage: it lasted forever. Even as it aged and developed an ecosystem of weevils, it remained edible. Or, at least, soldiers forced themselves to eat it. Eating hardtack required creativity. Soldiers soaked it in coffee or hot water to soften it. Others fried it in bacon grease, giving it some much-needed flavor. Some men crumbled it into soup or mashed it into flour-like powder, mixing it with whatever ingredients they could scavenge. But no matter how inventive they got, hardtack remained an unrelenting presence in their meals. For Confederate soldiers, hardtack became even rarer as the war continued, with Southern supply lines disrupted by Union blockades. Cornmeal often replaced flour as the primary source of sustenance, giving rise to cornbread as a battlefield staple. When freshly baked loaves arrived from supply depots, Union soldiers considered it a small miracle, a rare reprieve from the monotonous diet of preserved rations. However, for Confederate soldiers, fresh bread was even more elusive. With wheat supplies dwindling, cornmeal became the go-to alternative, resulting in dense cornbread, a Southern staple that kept soldiers fed when wheat flour was scarce. Flour-based rations weren't limited to bread alone. Soldiers experimented with making simple dumplings, ash cakes, or flatbreads, cooking them directly over open flames, hoping for anything, that tasted better than hardtack. While bread and biscuits were important, nothing was as universally beloved as coffee. Coffee was more than just a drink. It was a morale booster, a ritual, a source of comfort. Soldiers cherished it with an intensity that bordered on obsession. Union troops were lucky. Coffee was abundantly supplied, delivered in rations that they eagerly boiled in tin cups over campfires. It wasn't just a morning ritual, it was fuel for the soul, a moment of peace amid the chaos. A hot cup of coffee was an escape, a reminder of home, a taste of normalcy. Confederate soldiers, however, faced a tragic reality. Coffee was nearly impossible to come by. With blockades cutting off supplies, they had to improvise, turning to roasted chicory, acorns, rye, and even sweet potatoes to mimic the taste of coffee. It wasn't the same, but it was better than nothing. Coffee shortages became so dire that Southern troops sometimes looted Union camps just to steal coffee supplies. In fact, coffee was so important to soldiers that it became an informal currency, used in trades, bargaining, and even bribing fellow soldiers for extra rations. Meat was another challenge. Salt pork was the most common ration, arriving in slabs so heavily salted that it could withstand months without refrigeration, but the taste was overpowering. To make it edible, soldiers often boiled it, hoping to draw out some of the salt, or they fried it in a pan, coaxing out just enough flavor to make it tolerable. Beef was occasionally included in rations, but it was often preserved in brine or dried, making it another tough-to-eat staple. Many soldiers joked about their meat being so tough that it had to be soaked overnight and beaten with a rifle stock before eating. Beyond official rations, soldiers resorted to hunting. When luck was on their side, they hunted for fresh game, rabbits, squirrels, wild pigs, and even snakes, providing a rare, much-needed burst of flavor in their otherwise monotonous diet. In the South, civilians sometimes smuggled food to Confederate soldiers, delivering smoked ham, fresh vegetables, and even whiskey. These moments of generosity were rare but deeply appreciated. Cooking methods were dictated by necessity, not luxury. Open flames became makeshift kitchens. Tin pots, cast iron pans, and wooden sticks served as cooking tools. Some soldiers got creative, fashioning ovens out of bricks and stones to bake bread and biscuits. Frying in bacon grease was a common trick, adding much-needed taste to otherwise bland meals. Resourcefulness was key. Whether boiling coffee, roasting meat, or crushing hardtack into something remotely edible, soldiers did whatever they could to make their meals a little more bearable. Food during the Civil War wasn't about enjoyment, it was about survival. Soldiers endured monotonous diets, questionable cooking methods, and ration shortages. But through ingenuity, resilience, and the occasional stroke of luck, they managed to make do. So next time you sip your coffee or bite into a biscuit, remember the soldiers who did the same, under far harsher conditions. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. See you next time.